Welcome to the podcast. This episode today is for you if you have ever been in the position where I have been here too, so I totally get it, where you know logically that talking more about what you do and telling more people and saying it more often and telling people what you offer makes sense, right? And you're like, yes, I totally get it. And also I can't possibly say it more. Or you want to, and it is the thing you procrastinate the absolute hardest. It is the thing that you don't do and you don't do and you don't do, and then you feel bad about it because you're like, right, but I know I need to do this and I know it matters. And also, I'm going to do everything else. Like, this is when I know myself, I start like making lists of things and working on new freebies and making pretty things in Canva when I'm avoiding, right? So, if you know that talking about what you do more is really important and also it's hard, this is for you because this is, a current thing I'm talking a lot about. I just am running a workshop and a challenge about how to make more offers, which is like talking about what you do more specifically, right? Offers and invitations I kind of use interchangeably, but it's really the like, hey, come work with me part of this that makes a real difference in growing a business. And the more you say it, the more it works. And that's easy advice to give and hard advice to take, right? So, why is this so hard? Is the first question. Like, what actually is the trick here? Because if it was just a process problem, and you're like, well, but if I reorganize my social media and I time block better and I do all these things, if it was just that, we would have solved it, right? If it was just about your work process, it would be simple to fix. But that's the trick here. And in the workshop I gave last week, which actually I'm going to convert to sort of an ongoing thing. So if it's something you didn't do, keep an eye out in the next couple of weeks. It's going to convert into something like you can get for $23 whenever you're ready. If this is, what we were talking about there is, if it was simply just you need a better spreadsheet, great. I'd just hand you the spreadsheet. But that's not it. I would love to tell you I could just hand you a spreadsheet and you would make more offers and more invitations and you'd get out there more, right? This is what happens when it's like, I'm going to be more visible. And then people like hide in the bathroom for a week. So this is all wrapped together. Would love to tell you this process. But what's really hard about this part, this is maybe the hardest part about growing a business too, is that our own brains get in our way here. Because what happens when we start to be more visible is I wrote down a whole list of things we have, and we all have versions of them, but I had on my list is doubt, worry, wanting to be liked, wanting approval, perfectionism, comparison. All of these things are what come up when we start to think about talking about ourselves more and about what we do and about what we have to give. And that's all internal stuff. Like, I have one client who always says, like, well, but am I being too braggy? Right? If I say I'm good at this and I can help you, is that too much? I have another that says all the time, like, well, but is that oversharing? Right? Everybody's got a version of this. For me, I often worry about being too pushy when, as I have friends constantly remind me, like, the odds of me being too pushy are pretty much none because that's not my default setting. So even when I'm feeling too pushy, I'm not actually too pushy. And that's the trick to this. So all of this stuff that gets in the way between visibility, between talking about ourselves, between talking about what we offer, spreadsheet's great. Like, I'm down with a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet you can have, like, whatever. But the key to this is how we think about it. Would love to tell you it's not a mindset thing because the math process person in me is like, yay process, yay math, yay linear ordered things. But really, this is a mindset thing, this visibility thing. This is how we think about it. So what I want to share with you today are some thinking shifts that can help you to talk about what you do more without hating it, without hating yourself, without hating without being, it's going to be uncomfortable, but without being so uncomfortable that you don't do it. Because, like, I was talking to a client yesterday, and we were talking about how in school for students, there is a difference between productive struggle that's uncomfortable and impossibility, right? You can make something so hard for a kid, they literally just can't do it. They can't get their head around it. And so if you're really stuck here, what we want to do is make the level of struggle come down. You're going to be uncomfortable. Being visible, especially when you're not used to it, is uncomfortable, right? There's unpredictability. There's people could tell you they hate you, like all of these things. But guess what? Like, we can bring that down. We can normalize it. We can change how we think about it. And it can really make a difference. This is the entire reason I can do what I do, like being able to shift my thinking this way. I see this regularly makes such a difference for clients who were teachers, who were not teachers, who are starting new businesses, who have been in multiple businesses, because this is the same for all of us. This visibility thing is scary because we, want other people to like us, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, but we do have to think differently. So if talking about yourself and what you do more is the trick, and you're like, I know I need that, here's some things to consider. I have 7 things to think on the list. So the first one is what I have to share is useful, period. Oftentimes, what's in the way is questioning our expertise. Listen, you didn't show up to run a business because you didn't have any experience. Like, that's not how this works. People who don't know what they're doing are not like, you know what, let me start a business about that because I have no idea how to do it, but I guess I'll figure it out. No, we look around at what we're really good at and think, gosh, I wish I could do this more with people. And then it turns into a business, right? Coaching followed me, like literally followed me from job to job until I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's a business that I can have, right? I ignored my expertise for ages because I was like, well, but it's just me. It's just my thoughts. It's just the way I think. And I didn't give that any value because I figured everybody else did it the same way. They don't. And that's the magic here. So maybe what you have to give is a tactile thing. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's a product, maybe it's a specific tool, or maybe it's thoughts and experience and process and, coaching kinds of things. Either way, what you have to share is useful. What you have to share is valuable. And really sitting down in that makes a huge difference. Number 2, sharing what I do is how I help. This one is crazy to me because the idea that me just saying to people, hey, this is the kind of stuff I do. This is, work I'm doing with people right now is helpful to people. I forget that. I think we all forget that. When somebody tells you a story about something they've been through, we are helped because A, we remember we're not alone, and B, we're like, oh, she got to work through that. Whether somebody comes to me for coaching or not, simply the idea that I could open up a doorway for them to think like, I might be able to figure this out. Or, oh, maybe I could do it too. Or, gosh, I wonder how I would do that differently. Like, even just opening the door to possibility is helpful. Sharing what you do is helpful. And when you share from a place of like, hey, here's what I have going on. Here's what I've been helping people with. Here's what I love to do. What you're also not doing is convincing people. We're afraid that we're going to have to like talk people into things. And that's not what this is about. We are here to serve. Like, I run a people first business. My clients run people first businesses where like the impact matters more than the money, right? Where like I would make a difference 10 times in a row for free still to this day. But I know I am a business owner and I need to make money. And also sometimes paying money makes more of an impact. So all of that aside, like, I am here to do the helping. That matters first. So if sharing what I do is part of how I help, then gosh, I'm going to share, right? I'm not going to hide if what I have to share is useful. And that doesn't convince anybody of anything. It just says to them like, hey, This is here for you too. And that's a gift in and of itself. Number 3, people are curious about what I want, what I do, and they want to know more. Like just this base level, like nobody is hating me from afar, right? People want to know. This is one of the biggest shifts I see in my clients when they go from like, oh my gosh, nobody wants to hear from me to people want to know. It's like a light bulb goes off. It is, and you live on this continuum, right? Some days I think people don't want to hear from me. Some days I'm like, everybody needs to know this. They can't wait to hear. It's a continuum and nothing is an on-off switch. But here's the thing. Like if your default thought is what I have to share is useful, sharing what I do is how I help, and people want to know more, like that's a really powerful trio of things that lets you be like, oh, well, then I can just talk about it, right? There's a corollary to this one that I think is really important, and it is people who love me already want to help me. What we do so often is we hide from the people who know us best. We avoid talking about what we do with strangers. It's great. But talking to people we love about what we do is really scary because, like, those are people whose opinions really matter to us. But what's the magical thing is 9 times out of 10, those people will be like, oh my God, this is great for you. I'm so glad you're doing this. And how can I help? Like the people that love you want to help you. They will send you referrals. They will be your clients. They will be your customers if you tell them. We are like that for other people. Like you have friends who have started businesses and you're like, yes, I am first in line. And somehow we don't see it come back to us. We don't realize it goes the other direction too. And so we forget, or we're scared to say it to those people because, they might judge us. And yeah, they might. I have had friends be like, oh, are you? That's really why. And you know what? I still love them. And weirdly, over the years, those are also people who have still sent me referrals. They don't get it, but when they see somebody who needs me, they love me enough to know it. And that makes a huge difference. So tell them. Number 4, it's my job to share, and that's where my job ends. My job as a business owner is to say what I have. It is to do what I do. It is to show up. It is to be useful. It is to do all those things. And my job is not to stress over it after that. Like my job is not to, as a friend says, my job is not to think anyone else's thoughts for them. Like, I don't like it when people decide what my thoughts are for me, when they're like, oh, you're going to hate this. I'm like, well, but how do you know? How do you know if I haven't tried it yet? So my job is to stop thinking other people's thoughts for them. My job is not to worry about how people are going to judge it. That's hard. I get it. But when we're intentional about it's my job to share and that's it, that's where it ends. It really helps this visibility thing, this talking about what you do more, because it's like, oh, my job is to say, like, here's what I have for you. Here's this way I can help you and live in your body better. Here's this way I can help you, simplify your business. Here's this way I can help you learn to sell more easily. Here's this way I can help you get along better with your daughter. All the things. But then after that, your job is done. Stop thinking other people's thoughts for them. It's not easy, but it's worth it because then you're not like constantly in the like, what did they think? 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 Ugh. Feels terrible, right? Stresses me out even just to talk about it like that. Okay, number 5. This one I love because it is a simple thought, but like the way it makes a difference. Sharing what I do and know best is easy. It feels like a really flippant thing to say. But if you decide to intentionally get up, if I do my journaling first thing in the day, I haven't done it yet today because I decided to record this podcast first because I really needed to get this done. I wanted to get it out. But if you start with, sharing what I do is easy. Talking about what I do best is easy. Instead of, God, this is really hard. I don't know what to say. It makes a difference. When we tell ourselves things are easy, they are. I mean, you do this with your kids, with your students, with your family, and you're like, no, you got this. It's easy. You got it. You can do it. Like, it's not as hard as we're making it. Sometimes we make things way harder because we just decide they're hard. But actually, if we decide they're easy, they're actually kind of easy. It's a mess, isn't it? So if you can sort of start to even just practice the idea that sharing what I know and do best is easy, or even you can append it's possible at the front of it. So it's possible that sharing what I know and do best is easy. It's like, oh, it could be. Maybe it is, right? Oh, it makes a difference, right? The next one, 6, is, I think, a reminder. It is one I write often, even still, and it is one we all logically get, but we struggle with. Just because it's easy to me doesn't mean it's easy for everyone. This is the place we undervalue ourselves right here. This is where we downgrade our expertise because we forget as human beings that what is simple and clear and easy for us is not like that to everyone else. I had dinner with a client this week, and she said something to me. She was like, well, but why wouldn't everyone do this? And I looked at her and I was like, everyone is not you. You have confidence in this space that 99% of other people don't carry with them. You don't worry about this thing because you know how to do it, that everybody else does. And she was like, oh, are you sure? Yeah, freaking positive. Because I know people, I know a lot of people, and I know me, and I know my family, and I know my friends, and none of them has the confidence that she does in what she does. None of us think about it the way she thinks about it. No one. And so she often is just like, okay, here's the thing, you're good. But she forgets that it's not that simple for everyone else. And that is her magic. Her magic is that what's easy for her is not easy for everyone else, right? That is your magic too. What is easy for you is not easy for everyone else. And sort of the sneaky corollary to this is just because it's easy for you doesn't mean it's not valuable. That's the thing that's most valuable because that's the thing that's not easy for everyone else. This is the whole zone of genius conversation. And I'm not a fan of that phrase necessarily, but it is this idea that if it is simple and easy for you, that's what's valuable, right? Me sitting down with somebody and sort of straightening out their project processes and untangling the stuff and picking out, what's wonky in the way they're thinking about it and just making a subtle shift that changes things. I did that with a client yesterday about a talk she's going to give. She was like, oh, I feel so terrible. This is not my topic that I talk about. And I was like, actually, it's just the topic you talk about all the time. You don't call it that. And she was like, oh. And then she said to me, she said, she said, part of the reason I brought this to you today was because I knew that you would say something and I would think totally differently about it. That's the magic I have. I can say, hey, what about this way? And it's like, oh gosh, that's better. And that's what's valuable, but that's easy for me. Doesn't make it wrong. And the last one, this last thought is I think a tricky one. It's sort of, I think, the like where all of these are maybe the like 100 or 200 level courses in the college catalog. This is maybe the 300 or 400 level thought, but it is really valuable to try on if it fits you. People get it. Like, to look at what you're doing and assume and presume people get it. To think they understand what I'm saying. I think this all the time. I write a post and I think like, will they get it? And then I'm like, no, people get what I'm doing. People get what I have to offer. I introduced something in a room full of people the other day, and the people I know in that room are my people, all nodded their heads like, yep, I got it. And there were people that just stared at me, but you know what? Those were not my people, and I knew it. And I watched the responses and I was like, yep, my people understood that. That was it. And it was like the people who get you get what you're doing. They're with you already. You don't have to over explain it to them. You do have to explain, you do have to be clear, but like you can kind of presume that you are, because the corollary to this one is if they don't get it, they'll ask. Right? I have people all the time be like, wait, can you explain that word to me again? Because I just want to make sure I understood. Okay. I'm never offended by that. And I assume that the people I work with that are my people are going to ask questions. because I am a question asker and so are they. So I assume they get it, and I trust that if they don't, they're going to ask. You get to do the same. You can assume that people will get what you're doing as long as you keep showing up and you're consistent and you're talking about lots of different ways. They're going to get it. The people that are meant to get it will. And when they're like, wait, how does this work? They're going to raise their hand and be like, wait, how does this work? That's how it works. So this is all about how we think about being visible, because businesses grow when we talk about them more. Businesses can't grow when they are secret. Secret businesses are not successful. Part of this is talking about what you do. You are not bragging. You are not oversharing. You are not doing anything wrong. You're doing it all right. Keep showing up. If you are not in my Facebook group, come on in and play with us. It's the same name as this podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, I would love, 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 love if you could share it with other people you love that you think might also, or subscribe on Apple, in iTunes and podcasts, and iPodcasts, or in whatever platform you use, and in any kind of ratings or reviews you want to give are amazing, because that's how other people find it. That's how the platform knows people like it. And if I can be of help to you, send a note. If you're like, well, but these seem like fine thoughts, but I don't know how to actually do this, let's talk about it. I offer lots of different versions of coaching. Like, we'll find one that fits you, because honestly, as I said, this is a people first thing. And what I care about in the end is that you get what you need. So we'll make it work. All right. Happy week. I'll see you on the podcast next week.